Good morning. Welcome to Insight Retreat Center, IRC. We're here for our Wednesday mini retreat. And as we've been doing over the last several weeks, me, an RV, will talk to you a little bit about what life is like at IRC these days. I'm Doug Wiebe. I'm the facilities manager here. And we're going to start in the back of the property today. So this, for those of you who know IRC, this is the back parking lot behind the cottages, just adjacent to the garden. We'll walk through the garden a little later. But the reason I want to start here is because this is also where the generator shed is. We're going to talk a little bit about the generator. So let me start with facilities. So facilities covers a lot. I have learned after becoming facilities manager. It's really everything that's not dirt. It's really everything that's not plants on the property. So that means the houses for sure, but it also means furniture, it means painting, it means asphalt, it means water, it means electricity, it means heating, it means cooling. It means taking care of the meditation hall to maintain the environment in the meditation hall. And I'm sure there will be other things that come to my mind as we talk, but there's a lot there. Particularly with water and electricity, that's obviously the core of any house. And it's certainly important for us. And it's certainly important for retreats. So when we bring 40 people in, we need to support them for that week. With water and electricity. Water, we work off a well. The main house has a common well with the local area, but the treehouse has a well that we have to maintain for the treehouse. So that means a lot of testing water, checking for things like iron or water softening, just all the various issues with maintaining water. But today I want to talk a little bit about electricity, because one of the exciting things that's happening right now in my facilities world is that we're upgrading our energy, the ways in which we're going to power IRC for the future. One of the issues, it's really kind of three main parts to that. One part is our backup generator. So our backup generator is old. It's falling apart. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a little while, but we have to replace that because we're having these longer PG&E outages. There's no reason to believe that's not going to continue in the future, and we need to be able to power a retreat if the PG&E goes out. We also want to just upgrade the electric panel in our main building in general. It was built for somewhere in the middle of the 20th century. We're in a much different energy environment now. We need to be able to power more things through that electric panel. And one of the main things we want to be able to support, and this is what's really exciting for me, is we're going to put solar panels on the main house. So that means our energy will be sustainable, it will be ecologically friendly. And then we'll be able to feed that main power panel that is supporting our various electrical needs. And that will include what we're supporting now, but we're going into the future. It'll be things like electric cars and whatever it is that we're trying to pull off of fossil fuels. So in general, we're trying to get off of fossil fuels. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this generator because it's kind of a sight to behold. Our current backup generator was built from a 1950s Detroit diesel engine. And that engine was great in the 1950s. It powered trucks, it powered trains, but it's starting to give out. And so I thought maybe we'd take a quick look at it, just for those of you like me who've never seen a Detroit diesel engine before. It's kind of amazing. So let's take a quick look inside. There it is in all its glory. I doubt you've ever seen something like this. I never did. And again, it's a great, powerful engine, but right now it's spewing oil. And if you run it for more than a couple of hours, it starts to give out. So we will be replacing it, but we'll miss it because it's kind of an amazing piece of machinery. So the first job will be to replace that, and then we will go to phase 2, which is the electric panel, and phase 3, which is the solar panels. As I say, the solar panels will be particularly exciting. We're engaging a company that's a nonprofit organization, and they are specifically geared towards providing solar panels for other nonprofits. So there's kind of a nice synergy there. And they're actually the company that did the solar panels at IMC, for those of you who have seen those. So we're looking forward to working with them again. So let's head over here. One of the things that happens at IRC, particularly these days, is that we're all covering for one another, and we're all trying to keep IRC operational under circumstances that are kind of unexpected. So it really means that everybody has to help out with, whatever jobs come up along the way. So today, Stas, our landscaping manager, is away, and he asked me to water his new squash plants. So I'm going to take a break from facilities, which is, what's going to happen, right? I'm facilities manager, but I'm going to take a break. We're going to come over. We're going to water Stas's squash plants. So follow me over here to the garden. I don't know how many of you have spent time in the garden, but it's a beautiful place to walk through during a retreat. And Stas does an amazing job of keeping it up. Well, let's get a hose and let's water a few things. So the new squash plants are in here, but we've got, fruit trees, we've got tomatoes over here, we've got chives, kale, we've got a plum tree that's full of plums right now. The birds are starting to get to them. I'm not the landscaping manager. I don't know a lot about this, but I enjoy coming out here. I enjoy being able to help Stas out, because he will come help me out with facilities. When we do the solar panels on the roof, it's going to be a kind of an all hands on deck. We'll all be helping the people who are coming in to do it. So I'm going to wrap things up here. I think we've hit the end. So it was great to be able to take you around, talk a little bit about facilities, do a little watering of the garden. And I'm supposed to remind you that there is community time afterwards. So we'll have our mini retreat with Andrea Castillo, but then afterwards there'll be community time. So for those who want to stick around, that will be on Zoom. So it'll be on Zoom only. And I believe there's some instructions on YouTube, but the Zoom link password is community, all lowercase. So Andrea Castillo, are you out there?
I'm here, Doug. Good morning.
Great. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Doug. And good morning, everyone. We have about a minute before 10, so why don't we just sit quietly till it's 10 o'clock. So it's now 10. And would like to start very much on time. So again, welcome everyone. I already see in the chat that some of you are from very far away. This is really pretty astounding that we can come together and practice in this format. So today we're going to have a half-day retreat, and we're going to start with a 30-minute meditation. The topic that I chose for today is the topic of protection. To me, this concept of protection and the practice is very, very important, and particularly I find it relevant for what is happening in the world today. So I just invite you to allow this concept of protection to drop in your heart and mind, and see what comes up for you as far as what we do in the practice and how protection can be expressed to its fullest in our lives for ourselves and others. So let's begin by taking our special posture for meditation. You know, whatever, if you're sitting on the ground or on a cushion or a chair, just take a posture that you will be able to hold for 30 minutes with reasonable comfort. And then gently close your eyes. And the first thing that we want to guide our attention to is our breath. One way that I find very supportive to make the transition from our regular way of being to our meditative being is to take 5 very slow, deep breaths, inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. And you can keep count with the 5 breaths. So once you've completed the 5 slow, deep breaths, now let's allow the body to continue breathing in whatever way it's natural for the body. So this time we don't want to intervene or manipulate the breath, but just let it be. Welcoming ourselves to this place and to this moment. And taking a moment to set an intention for this time of practice, this beautiful, valuable 2 hours that we are devoting to our practice. What is our intention for today? And as a way to support the body and the mind to settle, let's begin by connecting with the posture. Just feeling this posture of how we're sitting right now. We want to feel it from the inside. Noticing if it's possible to feel the totality of the posture. And as you feel the shape that your body is in, perhaps you can open up a little bit the focus and sense the space around you. So connecting with the materiality of the body, the physicality of the body within the space. And becoming aware of the body gives us the spatial dimension. We're here. And as we bring the mind to rest in the body, we add the time dimension. Now, feeling this coming together of the here of the body and the now of the mind. And just realizing that the mind will go off now and then with thoughts. And that's all right. We just notice that. And with a smile, kindly, we bring the mind back here to the body, because we know that this is where the practice is. This is where the well-being is. Connecting mind and body in the here and now. This is where we discover truths, where there's the clear seeing and clear understanding. So time and time again, we bring back the mind. So now we will go through the body, just noticing how is the body right now. I find it helpful to start with the feet and feeling that groundedness of the feet touching the floor. Continuing up to the calves and the knees. And inviting these areas to soften, to relax. And if the body is not quite ready to release attention, then we just take note. That's the way the body is right now. And we let it be. And continuing up the legs to the thighs. Perhaps some of you have your hands on your thighs. You can feel the warmth of the palms of your hands on the thighs. Keeping these contemplations very simple. And proceeding now to the hips. Here's another important point for our stability. Feeling the contact of the hip bones with the chair or the cushion. And allowing the chair to receive our weight. Sometimes we discover that part of us is resisting this allowing our weight to be received by the place we're seated on. And now very slowly, we're going to bring the attention the whole length of the back. Perhaps you can visualize space between each vertebrae. This naturally allows the spine to lengthen. And perhaps here we can focus on our bone structure that keeps us upright. Bringing the awareness now to the shoulders and allowing them to slide down and back. And from the shoulders, bringing the attention now to the whole length of the arms and the hands. Reminding ourselves to stay here and now. And now moving the attention to the chest. Allowing the chest to be open. And perhaps we can feel the movement of the breath in the chest. It's rhythmic expansion and contraction. And now very gently moving the attention to the abdomen. Encouraging this area to soften. You can visualize of expanding the space in the area inside of the abdomen, making room for whatever is present now, be it emotions, or moods, making space. Now let's take a moment to bring the awareness to our neck. Being especially aware of the position of the head on the neck, If there's a little bit of discomfort, you can move the head ever so slightly, slowly, noticing where is that position, that placement of the head that brings the greatest ease to the neck. Bringing now our awareness to our face, softening the area around the forehead, around the eyes, the jaw, and the mouth. And now that we have completed going through the entire body, let's bring our awareness in whatever part of the body is most comfortable for us. It can be the feet or the hands or the abdomen. Let's allow the mind to rest in the body, just like the body rests on the chair or the cushion. For the rest of the meditation, we can be practicing open awareness, just receiving whatever arises, taking note, and coming back to rest the mind and the body. And we will do so in silence. So we now have 20 minutes of walking meditation, and we will ring a bell 3 minutes before it's time to come back. Thank you very much. So welcome back to sitting practice. We will now have a 40-minute meditation. It will be mostly in silence. But what I want to mention is to be aware of this continuity that is so valuable for us in the practice. We've had one sitting period where we established our awareness in the body, and then we took ourselves to walking meditation, where we experience this body in motion through space, this proprioceptive awareness that is so important for us to carry the practice to our daily lives, to our daily activities. So carrying this awareness now back to quiescence, to stillness, to sitting meditation, we take again our posture. And again, connecting first with the breath. And the body. And when you find there is enough stability in the body and in the mind, I invite you to drop the question, how do I relate to the aspect of protection in the practice? And in my daily life, with my daily activities, in the public world. Where is the connection between our practice and protection, inner and outer protection? right now in this moment? How can the practice protect me? How does staying present to the here and now protect me? Can we notice when we lose sati or mindfulness that the mind is unprotected? Can we touch right now into this inner refuge? And when we are resting in this inner refuge and we are protected, how is the body? And how is the mind? We state their intention to remain here. We learn to recognize the distracted mind. And just recognizing that a distracted mind is something we share with every single human being. So with kindness, we recognize, and once again, set the intention of remaining aware and present. And for the last few minutes of our meditation, I invite you to consider the following question. As we learn to protect ourselves from our mind, how can we offer this protection to the world? So we're now going to transition to a short Dharma talk. So as you have well surmised, the topic that I really felt moved to talk about today is protection. I find that right now in the world is a very important topic for us all to consider. So I will briefly touch upon the intersection between the interior and the exterior protection of mindfulness or sati, and how it leads us naturally from formal sitting practice to social activism, both being a form of protection for ourselves and the others and the world in general. And then very briefly, I touch upon how retreat practice and daily life as one and as a form of protection also for ourselves and others is so important for us. You wouldn't be here today if it weren't that you've already recognized that importance. So protection, I mean, if we just think about its meaning, is having the strong wish to keep someone or something safe from harm. Many years ago, when I first heard the metta phrase, may I be protected from inner and outer harm, I was intrigued to realize that I needed to be protected from my own mind. We know how much harm we can cause when the mind goes off into unwholesome areas. And so with this practice, we train our mind in order to protect ourselves from our own mind, and that's the interior aspect. And we train our mind in order to protect others, becoming aware of the effect of our words and actions on others. That would be the exterior mode. So as we deepen our capacity to internalize and embody the four foundations of mindfulness, or the satipatthanas, the body, feeling tone, mind, and dhammas, we begin to grasp one essential aspect of the refrain of that discourse. And that is this aspect that I've already mentioned several times, which is the interior and exterior aspect of sati, or mindfulness. So gradually we develop the clear understanding that as we train ourselves to protect our minds from ourselves, or what I like to call the inner ecology, we naturally wish to protect the outer ecology, extending it to all sentient beings, and thereby giving the gift of harmlessness to the world by making all sentient beings feel safe with us. So I want to share with you an experience in which I saw this relation between the inner and the outer ecology. Last year, I visited an old high school friend whom I had not seen in a long, long time, years. And you know how it is when you visit friends that you haven't seen in many years, you're not sure if you're going to have a lot more in common other than the past. All I knew is that he had become a well-respected ecologist specializing in marine biology in Baja California. And I had become a Dharma teacher. So one evening, we stayed talking into the night. And after we shared, or I should say, after he first shared with me some of the many efforts he had made through the years of protecting the marine life in Baja California, I shared first cautiously just a little bit about my Dharma life. I was pleasantly surprised that my words were received with an open and curious mind. And so I was happy to answer some questions he had about the Dharma. So at some point in this conversation, I was aware of a deep sense of connection because we were sharing what was most meaningful and dear to each one of us. And there was a clear sense of mutual respect and how we had chosen to live our lives according to our values. Later that night, just spontaneously, an image arose that for me symbolized that exchange. And the image was of two kids sitting together, facing each other at the beach, and digging a tunnel across each other with their hands. Perhaps you can remember having done that with a friend when you were a child. You dig, and then there's this happy moment when the two hands find each other inside the tunnel. And I realized that that is what had happened with my friend. He had devoted much of his life to the quest of protecting the outer ecology by protecting marine life. And I had devoted much of my life to the quest of protecting the inner ecology by investigating the mind and training myself to protect it from the defilements. So it was a very joyful moment when I realized that the driving force for both had been ethics and compassion. So in my practice, I have seen that the cultivation and protection of the inner ecology naturally leads us to the cultivation and protection of the outer ecology. Thinking for a moment of the centrality of the topic of protection in the world right now, especially in what's going on in our country in relation to the violence we have experienced lately. How can we make sure that everybody has the privilege of being protected? Not only white, wealthy people. One of the most uplifting images that I have seen lately as our country convulses with pain from the violence inflicted repeatedly on Black and brown bodies is that of a row of white women forming a protective enclosure with their own bodies around a group of African American men. Can we practice as a form of activism? Are we aware that the more we are able to embody sati, the more effective we will be in bringing about change? So as our country grapples with the effects of the inequities that have become so glaring through COVID, we can pose the question, what can we do to protect the most vulnerable? I'd like to share with you a very powerful poem written by the poet Luis Alberto Urrea, somebody who grew up at the Mexican-American border. please listen to this poem with your heart and keep the question in the background of how we can protect the most vulnerable in our society. I will read only a fragment of the poem because it's actually quite long. And the poem is called Codex Lunar. My moon pulled a different darkness across the sky. My unknown sisters, tucked in the barbed embrace of the border fence, saw a different face in the moon. Theirs was a luna tochtli, a rabbit moon, moon of running, fear, hiding. Their moon peeled a panicked eye, goggled, blind as they ran. Headlights froze them. Twin moonbeams ran them down. Tufts of their dreams tangled in thickets of border tumbleweeds. My sisters brought undocumented scents to sweeten the valleys. She ran all her life. She ran to stay ahead of charging darkness, galloping hunger. Worked the light of the moon in her small hands, the color of earth. She molded moon glow into trinkets, traded for coins, the color of the sun. Wove moon into bracelet. She traded for perfume. Worked the ceremonial motel chambers, swept the floors of the moneyed. Just an illegal drudge in crepuscular rain. If you see her, protect her, revere her. My unknown sister, light candles in her honor, you travelers. She is the mother of my race. So I invite you to see this formal sitting practice as one with social activism. And then see how all of this is strengthened and comes together in retreat practice. In retreat practice, where we taste the protection of seclusion. In retreat, where we experience both the physical seclusion and the mental seclusion. And I find it interesting that in the Dharma, we speak about both. We make a differentiation of what's the physical seclusion and what's the mental seclusion. In the physical seclusion is where we are in an environment, just like IRC, where we are protected from the busyness and the complication of our lives. We have very busy, complicated lives. We are protected from so many distractions that we have at home. And we also learn in this physical seclusion, among many other things, to be with solitude, to taste solitude, to enjoy solitude, not to be afraid of solitude. So when we talk about mental seclusion in the Dharma, it means basically that we are protecting the mind from the defilements or the hindrances. So in retreat, we're protected by the simple schedule that reduces the choices to a minimum, reducing the mind activity. So just like these 2 hours that we've devoted to practicing together, it's very simple, the choice of walking meditation and sitting meditation, and then walking again, and then sitting again, and then listening to Dharma talk. And then noticing and being aware of the value of how in retreat, as we accumulate this momentum of mindfulness through our practice, that soon there is this continuity, that at the beginning we had to make an effort to keep it going, but then somehow at some point it just flows. So I'd like to finish with a verse from the Dhammapada that, to me, just in a few words, describes very beautifully the beauty of being on retreat. Tasting the flavor of solitude and peace, one becomes free of distress and evil, drinking the flavor of Dharma joy. I'll read it again. Tasting the flavor of solitude and peace, one becomes free of distress and evil, drinking the flavor of Dharma joy. Let's close our eyes for a moment. In the last minutes that we have together, I would very much like to hear from you. How have you responded to this topic of protection as we view it in the interior realm and the exterior realm? So take a moment to just clarify for yourself, what is it? What would be the most salient point that came up for you from this investigation together? You can begin by typing it in the chat. And also, if there is a question that arises, I think many of us are concerned about the welfare of the world right now. And many of us ask the question, how can I be of support? Yes, so that's beautiful. So one person writes, yes, this freedom from the defilements. To understand that even if it's temporary, that we can be free of defilements and experience that protection. And we can take those moments of freedom, of defilements, as a point of reference, so that when we are not free, we can connect and remind ourselves that this is possible. This is not a far, far goal from, getting, as some of us have this idea of far away, nibbana, but right here. And somebody wrote also trust. Yes, that's a beautiful quality. The trust, and I think also I'd like to say confidence that we develop in ourselves as our practice gets stronger. And we know that the mind is not going to pull us around anymore like puppets. And yes, this idea that the mind contains both our affliction and our freedom. So somebody writes, the practice on the inner and outer. So you have any specific resources for the migrants? Other than, I would just recommend making a Google search about organizations like ACLU that specialize in justice for all. But I think also that we want to really keep in mind that in our daily lives, we have the presence of immigrants, of migrant workers. And I invite you to take time to be generous. Let's see, here's another question. How to be an activist from a place of kindness without succumbing to anger and hatred. That's a beautiful thought and question. And I think that the practice is ideal in the sense that it teaches us constantly to find that middle path. It teaches us first to have self-compassion. So this ability to constantly monitor ourselves. How am I going to give? Realizing that generosity and wisdom need to work together. So here's another question. What does it look like when love overcomes hate? I think we have seen it in people like Gandhi, like Martin Luther King, where they really have embodied this ability to be proactive and at the same time not succumb to the hatred. The case with Mandela also in South Africa, right? To be able to make this transition without revenge. So there are many examples out in the world that we can take inspiration from. And to realize, that what we have to give for each one is going to be very different. It all depends about what the inner resources and also material resources and health resources, that we have that we can share. Yes, exactly. Somebody writes, thanks to the practice, I can be protected whether alone or in the middle of chaos. Very important. It's a very beautiful thought. So somebody else writes, appreciate the encouragement of my linking my investment in the practice as metta for self and others, and to wake up to the privilege of being a white person in a country based on white supremacy. That's beautiful. Yes, so this is so important that we each one do our work, that we each realize that race is a reality, no matter what our background is, that we need to educate ourselves and know how this is playing out in ourselves and others. That it is not only the task of people of color, or BIPOC, as we now say, of Black, Indigenous, and people of color. This is something that we all need to face, and need to face with a lot of wisdom and gentleness, because we know that this topic touches a very, very vulnerable, fearful place in us, this place of not belonging or being left out of the tribe. So whenever we touch this topic, we want to bring our practice to this discussion, to this contemplation, to this activism, so that when we are talking about it, when we are involved in an activity, it is with a regulated body. Because a regulated body will regulate other bodies. So thank you very much for all of your comments. And just realizing that each one of us in our own unique way can offer something to make this world a little better. Let's just close our eyes for the last minute of our session. May the benefits of our practice together be shared with everyone we come in contact with. And may we learn to not only protect ourselves, but protect every being in this world. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for your practice.
Thank you very much, Andrea. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. For those who are on YouTube, we'll be leaving you soon. But for those who are on Zoom or who would like to move over to Zoom, we will continue with community discussion. And
And before we do that, I just want to remind you that we will be back next week, same time. And Andrea Fella will be leading us that day. So hope people will be able to come back and join us next week. So we're going to go on to our community time. And I believe there's a link on the YouTube channel if you want to join us on Zoom. The password is community, all lowercase. And I will turn it over to Lish. Lish, are you out there?